We're going to be replacing the belt tensioner on a 2003 Toyota Corolla. 2003 has the VVT-i 16 valve engine, and yours should look similar or exactly the same as this. The belt tensioner is over here on the left hand side, and that runs your Serpentine belt. So we will be pulling that out today, and we will also be undoing the engine mounts, that bolt and these bolts just in under there, in order to raise the engine, in order to get that nut, or bolt I should say, out, because it's going to hit the chassis. These are the parts that are required. On the right is the Serpentine belt with the part number on it, and on the left is the Serpentine belt tensioner. And both of these parts are available from Repco. I very carefully place some cloth and to distribute the force across the area underneath so I don't damage the pan in any way. The next step that I'm going to do is to release the top part of the tensioner. That's a 12mm nut, and I'm going to use a 12mm ring spanner. Be careful in case it slips. You need to think about where the spanner is going to go, and you don't want to damage any of this tubing. As you can see, I've just carefully dislodged the tube that goes to my power steering, but very gently. I then removed the Serpentine belt. Now I managed to get this guy here onto the torque rotator thingy, and then put a bar into here. Got to be careful with this tube. You can sort of rub up against it a bit, but gee, it is pretty tight down here. And so then what I did was I just pulled that torque toward me. I torqued it toward me, if that's all the right terms. So that guy was in there. And so then what I did was I pulled it toward me just enough to be able to get the belt off down here. So the Serpentine belt is off. Look, I've had a pretty good look at how it all goes back on and what the pattern is, but that's all on YouTube for you as well. So next step, now that that is loose, is that I should now be able to take that guy off and then lift the engine carefully so that that bolt down there, the shiny one, clears the chassis to the left of it. The bolt is a 17mm down there, and I've managed to crack it using this nice long arm. It doesn't have a ratchet on the end, it is just a normal handle. Now that I've cracked that, I'll come back with a socket set with a uni joint. I remove the uni joint and I'm just going to go straight onto the socket. It was too tight. I finished the job with a ring spanner. The socket was starting to wear into the chassis and I didn't want to be applying pressure to the thread. So the new one is resting in place. The best way to get it in there is to bring it in through the back of the engine and then bring it around. I've managed to put the part in place, and then the top section eye hole fits over that bolt. I'm just going to leave the nut off for a bit while I tighten up the bottom bit. So I put the bolt back in down here, and it went in reasonably well, and I was able to just use a ring and an open-ended spanner for most of the thread journey, if you like. And now what I've done is I've just put the bar back on. Now it's a pretty full-on bar, and look, I'll be honest, it's not a torque wrench. I just sort of noted how much force was applied in taking it off. I'm going to do my best to apply that same sort of force, but be careful. Obviously, you don't want to shear it. The Serpentine belt that came off isn't too bad, actually. It's in really good condition. I'd say it's been replaced recently. A bad belt will have cracks, perpendicular splits starting to run through it. I've bought a belt, so I'm going to fit a new one. This is the new belt. This is available. It's Gates, aftermarket, available through Repco, who, you know, they stand behind their products, so I'm content to use that one. I fed the belt in through the top of the mechanisms, and then I'm going to navigate it into place from there. Got the belt on as far as I can, and all I got to do now is bring it over this guy here, this last wheel, which is the alternator, I believe. So the way to do this is, and this is hindsight because I have really been wrestling with this, is work from the back toward the front. Get it all on at the back, get it all on underneath, get it up over the little tensioner, and then bring it all forward to the front. And then we will turn the tensioner shortly and then loop it on, and then it should be good to go. I don't know what this line is. It might be air conditioning or fuel or something, I don't know. But look, it's in the way of me getting the wrench in here to apply torque in order to loop the belt on. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to drop the engine back down now and then reseat it back where it should be, and then I should have enough room. The engine mount is back on, okay? Now just be aware that this section here is a rubber mount. So when you go lining this up, and make sure you line it up well, because what you don't want to do is cross thread any of this stuff. But you should be, when you go to line it up, grabbing this housing here and moving it around. A second person helped me. So there's no point yanking on the engine and any of that sort of stuff. It's this housing here that you need to yank on because it's rubber mounted. You could be pulling on the engine and all that sort of stuff, but this thing is just, you know, hanging in the breeze. So it's this that you need to grab hold of, and this that you need to line up. Put them in just a little way to locate them, then do your next one, locate it, and then this one up here underneath. That's the the hard one. You'll need a ring spanner for that guy. Be careful when you slip. You don't want to knock around these other things. I gave that a crank. It came all the way down to that bracket, and I managed to get the belt back on. Now apparently what I need to do is prime this from the other videos that I've seen. So I'll see how that goes and let you know. Alright, so that's the job done. I started the car cautiously. Everything ran fine, the belt's all in track. Make sure before you start the car that the belt is seated correctly and will track correctly. It's one thing for the belt to come off, it's another thing for the belt to come off and do damage or you lose your belt. The symptom was a rattling sound at the beginning of this problem, which I believe was this part here. This is the old one. So apparently this is all jingling and carrying on. I don't know how that part works. If you do, maybe leave a comment below. But basically at idle, when the car is at temperature, that's when this started to jingle and make the sound. So I'm really pleased that that jingling is not happening now, and that the mechanic did diagnose it correctly. My car, which used to be Kmart Tire and Auto, they did diagnose it as the tensioner, so I'm pleased to say that they got that right. Look, they wanted $750, which is fine, and because, you know, look, that's their labour, they're in business to make a profit. I got the parts from Repco and did it for under $350. As a result, I know more about my car, and I know how to fix it, and I got to do something on a Saturday.